here we are. The old CRAFTSMAN LT1000. One of the most common riding lawnmowers around, at least here in the Pacific Northwest. It's one of the most common lawnmowers. Sold by Sears, CRAFTSMAN. This one has a 16 horsepower Kohler engine. 42-inch deck. You can see it's pretty grubby. And I pulled this one out of a barn today. It's pretty cold out here, about 40 degrees. I'm surprised I was able to convince myself to go do it. But a good deal is a good deal. Let's see what the engine looks like here. Yeah, that's pretty gross. At least it's a Kohler Command and not the Kohler Courage piece of crap. But it's a 16 horsepower. These are pretty good engines. Hopefully nothing major happened. Always check the oil first. And there's oil in it. So that's a good sign. Dang, I think I'm going to have to clean this thing up a little bit before I can start working on it. Get off some of the big chunks here. Spray a little soap on here, a little bit of oil eater. Yeah, this thing looks better already. So I'm charging up the battery. The battery's only a couple years old, so hopefully it'll come back to life. So anytime a piece of equipment sits for a while, you're usually going to have to work on the fuel system. And the first thing I always do is drain out the gas tank. This one was already drained. And what's important about that is you want to make sure that the gas tank is completely dry, no water in there, and that there's no sediment, and that there's no sediment in there also. These tanks are easy enough to take off, but what I do is I just dry it out thoroughly, and then I blow some compressed air in there, and all the sediment that's left in there kind of comes flying out. So that's the way I clean out a lot of these gas tanks. And as I said, the fuel system always needs to be serviced whenever something sits for a while. So let's get at the carburetor here. That's our fuel filter, which I'll probably replace. But this carburetor has a fuel solenoid, it's called, or a anti-backfire solenoid. And when you turn the key to the first position, if you listen, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but you can actually hear that component clicking if it's working correctly. So that's the first thing you want to test. And that one I can hear. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but... So next thing we want to do here is cut that little zip tie and unplug that little electrical component. And to get these off, what I use a just a 1/2-inch wrench that I had to grind on each side to flatten it down to make it nice and skinny, or thin, I should say. And that way you can usually fit it up in here and take off this piece. You're going to have some gas come out of there, so it's a good idea to put a rag or something underneath. So you take this little piece off, and there's going to be a gasket up in there. In this case, it remained attached to this component. It didn't rip or anything, so that's good. We can reuse it. And to get the float bowl off, it should just pop off or fall off, but sometimes they get stuck on there. So give a couple of whacks. There we go. Yeah, so you can see in this case the float bowl gasket, that rubber O-ring, stayed on the float bowl. And if you look in there, see if I can get this here for you guys. You can see there is some sediment. The gas stinks. So we want to clean this out and check up in here and make sure that everything looks nice and clean there. If it doesn't, sometimes you have to remove the carburetor and clean everything up that way. But in this case, everything looks pretty clean. So I'm just going to blow some air through here, blow some air through the fuel line, and just make sure everything is dried out and clean. Doesn't have dirty gas in it anymore. So let's disconnect these fuel lines from the fuel filter here. A lot of times twisting them helps get them off. There you go. Drain out any excess that's still in there. All right. Get all the gas out of there. Just want to make sure to get out all that old gas. Spray up around the carburetor here. Be careful not to knock the float off. As I said, everything looks pretty clean up in the carburetor, so I'm not going to mess with it. Fuel filter on here. Oh yeah. Here we go. So check this out. So you can see how slowly that plunger is returning. That's a sign that this thing needs to be cleaned out. Yeah, so we need to put some carburetor cleaner down in here and work that free, because that shouldn't stay down like that. So here's basically what I'm doing. I'm spraying a little bit of carburetor cleaner in there, and then I'm just pushing the plunger down, putting a little more, push it down. Eventually it'll work itself free. There we go. But this little plunger is actually a common problem for why lawnmowers won't start. Time to put this carburetor back together here. I'm not too tight on this thing. You can overdo it pretty easily. We're good to go. All right, so the battery charged up overnight. I turned it over and the engine turned over, so that was good. I think it's time to add some gas. That's enough.
Let's fire this baby up.
Smoking a bit. That's all right. Hasn't been ran in quite a while. Whoa! Bet you all were waiting for that.